Hey guys, how's it going? Master Cal here, and today I'm going to be doing the 12th video for my 2021 NFL offseason recap series, the San Francisco 49ers. So the Niners made a very huge aggressive move this offseason for Kyle Shanahan in an attempt to get back into the Super Bowl and possibly get his version of Patrick Mahomes after Mahomes beat him in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. The Niners will also hope for a much healthier team this year after dealing with a rash of injuries in the 2020 season, although they're not off to the best start, as we'll get to in a moment. So the Niners had some coaching changes because they lost some key members to other teams. Defensive coordinator Robert Saleh became the head coach of the New York Jets, replacing Adam Gase. He also took along passing game coordinator Mike LaFleur, the younger brother of Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, with him. So the 49ers elevated running game coordinator Mike McDaniels to full-time offensive coordinator. McDaniels and LaFleur had split the offensive coordinator duties, with Shanahan obviously calling the plays, but McDaniels is now the full-time OC with LaFleur the OC with the Jets. And they also promoted from within for defensive coordinator, linebacker coach DeMeco Ryans is the new defensive coordinator for the 49ers. So it'll be pretty much continuity, but we'll have to see how those guys do in their new roles. The free agents of the Niners were able to retain. They re-signed left tackle Trent Williams to a massive 6-year contract worth $138,060,000. And $40,050,000 of it is fully guaranteed. So they acquired Williams during the draft last year after the retirement of Joe Staley, and he was outstanding for them after he missed the entire 2019 season and a part of the 2018 season due to injury. And so they wind up giving him the biggest, so after allowing him to test free agency, they wind up giving him the biggest contract ever for an offensive lineman. And it'll tie him to the Niners through his age either 38 or 39 season. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk, a big part of their running game, was re-signed to a 5-year contract worth $27 million, $9.6 million of it fully guaranteed. And Juszczyk's been a pretty solid signing for them since 2017, and he was brought back pretty early on, I think a day or two before free agency opened. He also will be going through kind of older years. This is through his age 35 season. So Niners are taking a bit of a risk with older players, but I guess we'll see. Restricted free agent cornerback Emmanuel Moseley was brought back on a 2-year deal. It's worth $9.384 million, up to $10.134 million. $4.384 million of it is guaranteed, and he's been a pretty solid starter for them the past couple of seasons, so a nice deal for him. It buys out 1 year of unrestricted free agency. Fellow corner Jason Verrett was re-signed to a 1-year deal worth $5.5 million, up to $6.5 million, with $4.5 million of it guaranteed. Verrett was forced into the number 1 corner role for the Niners, with Richard Sherman dealing with some injuries, and with Sherman gone as a free agent, Verrett was brought back and finally fully healthy after he dealt with a lot of injuries early on in his career. Defensive tackle D.J. Jones was brought back on a 1-year deal worth $3.5 million. $3.25 million of it is guaranteed, so almost fully guaranteed. And he's been a starter for them the past couple of years, and especially last year after they traded DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts. And he'll be a starter again this year. Nickelback K'Wan Williams was brought back on a 2-year deal worth just under $2.4 million, with $1.2575 million of it guaranteed. It was thought that Williams would perhaps leave in free agency, but he lingered around a bit, and the Niners were able to bring him back on a pretty team-friendly deal, one of the better nickel corners in the game. Restricted free agent long snapper Tabor Pepper was re-signed to a 2-year deal worth $2.08 million, $300,000 guaranteed. They made a switch at long snapper during the middle of the season, and they were able to bring Pepper back. Restricted free agent running back Jeff Wilson Jr. was brought back on a 1-year deal worth $2.05 million. It's fully guaranteed. And he was actually their leading rusher last year because of injuries to Mostert and Coleman. Restricted free agent tight end Ross Dwelley was brought back on a one-year deal worth $1.6 million. $1.4 million of it is guaranteed, a key backup. Restricted free agent safety Marcel Harris was brought back on a one-year deal worth $1.2 million, $350,000 of it guaranteed. Starting safety Jaquaski Tart was re-signed to a one-year veteran minimum contract with $987,500 guaranteed. Tart also lingered around in free agency a little bit, and the Niners were able to bring him back on a minimum deal. They re-signed corner Dante Johnson to a one-year deal worth $1.075 million. As backup guard Tom Compton to the same deal, no guarantees. They re-signed edge rusher Jordan Willis to a one-year deal worth $990,000 with no guarantees. They acquired him ahead of the trade deadline from the New York Jets to add some depth to their injury-riddled defensive line. And he is suspended the first 6 games of the regular season. And then they brought back exclusive rights free agents Ken Webster, Josh Rosen, Kai Nakua, River Craycraft, and Daniel Brunskill, who's been a starter at right guard for them. They also brought back Austin Walter as an exclusive rights free agent, but he has since been waived and claimed by the New York Jets off of waivers. Now for their free agent additions. Center Alex Mack, former Falcon and Brown, signed a 3-year deal worth $14.85 million, $5.1 million of it guaranteed. He knows Shanahan from Atlanta and also from Cleveland, so he's been in all 3 places with him now. He's coming off a year where he was injured a little bit, and he is getting up there in age. He's 36 years old, but he's still pretty productive when healthy, and it's not a very big contract, and they can get out of it after just 1 year. Former Rams edge rusher Samson Ebukam signed a 2-year deal worth $12 million, $5 million of it guaranteed. Ebukam has been a part-time starter for the Rams and also a key special teamer. They signed defensive tackle Zach Kerr to a 1-year deal worth $1.2125 million, no guarantees. He was released by the Carolina Panthers this offseason. Receiver Mohamed Sanu signed a 1-year deal worth $1.14 million, $25,000 guaranteed. Sanu was actually on the 49ers roster for a little bit after he was released by the Patriots, another former Falcon, so he knows Shanahan's system from there. He didn't have a whole lot of time to get caught up in Shanahan's system, and he wound up getting cut. He signed to the Lions practice squad before being promoted, and now he's coming back to the Niners with a full offseason and a chance to try to make a splash in the receiving room. They signed former Titans and Vikings tight end Michael Pruitt to a one-year minimum deal, $637,500 guaranteed. They added a couple of veteran safeties, former Colt, Lion, and Patriot Tavon Wilson on a 1-year deal worth $1.125 million, and also former Raven and Cardinal Tony Jefferson on a 1-year deal worth $1.075 million. Jefferson was released by the Ravens in 2020 and did not play, recovering from a torn ACL he suffered during the 2019 season. Guard Senio Calamete signed a 1-year deal worth $1.075 million. A part-time starter with the Texans the past couple of years, and he was released by Houston. We had a couple of former Raiders in defensive linemen Arden Key and Maurice Hurst. They both signed identical contracts. 1 year, $1.045 million, $125,000 guaranteed. They were both 2018 draft picks by the Raiders, Key a 3rd rounder and Hurst a 5th rounder, if I remember correctly, and both were cut on the same day, and the Niners signed him just not long after. Running back Wayne Gallman, former New York Giant, signed a 1-year deal worth $990,000. Linebacker James Burgess signed a 1-year deal worth $990,000. And a couple of waiver claims, cornerback Mark Fields from the Houston Texans, and receiver Simba Webster from the Los Angeles Rams. For their cuts, center Weston Richburg retired. He had 2 seasons left on the 5-year deal that he signed with the 49ers in 2018, and that contract winds up being a wash as he dealt with a bunch of injuries during those times. He was pretty good when he was healthy, but the time has come to move on from him. Linebacker Mark Nzocha had his option declined. He remains unsigned. They also waived Matt Cole, who they signed off of Miami's practice squad at the end of the year, and he got claimed by the Jets off of waivers. For their free agent losses, edge rusher Kerry Hyder who had a breakout season after filling in for the injured Nick Bosa last year, signed with the division rival Seahawks. Receiver Kendrick Bourne signed a 3-year deal with the New England Patriots. Quarterback C.J. Beathard signed a 2-year deal with the Jaguars. Former number 3 overall pick Solomon Thomas signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Cornerback Akello Witherspoon also signed with the Seahawks. Running back Tevin Coleman joined up with the Jets. Running back Jerick McKinnon signed with the Chiefs. Tight end Jordan Reed retired. Backup quarterback Nick Mullins was non-tendered as a restricted free agent coming off of elbow surgery, and he signed with the Eagles. Edge rusher Ronald Blair, who missed all of last year, also recovering from an ACL. He suffered injury in the 2019 season, signed with the Jets. Linebacker Joe Walker signed with the Washington football team. Receiver and returner Trent Taylor signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. And long snapper Colin Holba, who was a COVID replacement for one game, was cut and signed with the LA Rams. Their unsigned free agents are Richard Sherman, who recently was arrested for a pretty serious off-field incident, or he just didn't seem right with himself, and just something like just really, really serious. And you hope he's okay, but also he has to do his time and his justice if it comes to that. Also unsigned are center Ben Garland, edge rusher Ziggy Ansah, edge rusher Dion Jordan, cornerback Jamar Taylor, center Hronis Grasu, and center Tony Bergstrom. The Niners' most notable move this offseason, though, was a massive trade that they made as they moved up from 12th overall to 3rd overall with the Miami Dolphins. They traded away their first-round picks in the next 2 drafts, along with a 3rd-round pick in 2022, which is a compensatory third that they'll receive for Robert Saleh being hired as the Jets head coach because he's a minority. So the Dolphins got a lot of draft capital while the Niners moved up, and they were able to select Trey Lance with that pick. And they hope that his athleticism and just all the attributes that he has there, along with playing in a pro-style system at North Dakota State, will help translate over to that level. He's not going to start right away, barring an injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's probably wise not to throw him into the fire right away, given that he did not play very much last year because of COVID, canceling most of North Dakota State's season. With a 2nd-round pick, 16th pick in the 2nd round, they took Notre Dame guard Aaron Banks, and he'll be able to compete for the starting right guard job. They traded up in the 3rd round and took Ohio State running back Trey Sermon with the 24th pick in the 3rd round. They took cornerback Ambry Thomas with the 38th pick in the 3rd round. With the 11th pick in the 5th round, they took tackle Jalen Moore. With the 28th pick in the 5th round, they took cornerback Diomodor Lenoir. With the 36th pick in the 5th round, they took safety Talanoa Hufanga. And with the 10th pick in the 6th round, they took running back Elijah Mitchell. About a week or two, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the 49ers signed linebacker Fred Warner to a big 5-year extension worth $95 million. $27.5 million of it is fully guaranteed. And Warner's been one of the best linebackers in the league the past couple of years, so this is a very well-deserved extension for him, as he becomes the highest paid linebacker in the league at $19 million a year, which tops the Seahawks' Bobby Wagner, who is at $18 million a year. And it's actually technically a 3-year extension, as the last 2 years are void years. However, the Niners can buy back both of those void years and make it a true 5-year extension. So, but we'll worry about that once we get to 2024. Warner was set to be a free agent after the season. As far as injuries, the Niners have already suffered several injuries before training camp even started. Running back Jeff Wilson Jr. suffered a torn meniscus, and he's going to miss the first part of the regular season. And then tackle Justin Skule and safety Tarvarius Moore both suffered season injuries during OTAs. Skule, I don't remember. One of them suffered an ACL, and the other one suffered an Achilles injury. I don't remember exactly, but both of those guys are officially out for the year. So, now we're going to talk about my thoughts for the 49ers offseason, and I thought they had a pretty solid offseason. I mean, it sounds like Kyle Shanahan is getting tired of Jimmy Garoppolo with his injuries and his sometimes underwhelming performance, and they're going to go for a very high upside option in Lance, and we'll see. I think the Niners would like to have Garoppolo going as long as he's healthy and or as long as they're in contention, which in a weaker NFC I believe they should be. But a few losses early on in the season, and there could be calls for a switch to be made. So we'll keep an eye on that. The position of need that I listed for the Niners, I listed left tackle, interior O-line, defensive tackle, and corner. Left tackle was certainly addressed by bringing back Williams. Interior O-line was addressed by bringing back Daniel Brunskill along with drafting Aaron Banks, along with Compton and Kelemete as depth additions. Defensive tackle, yeah, that was addressed. They re-signed DJ Jones and they added Zach Kerr and Maurice Hurst, so yeah, that was pretty good. And then cornerback for sure, because pretty much their entire secondary except for Jimmy Ward was going to be free agents. So Mosley, Verrett, Witherspoon, and some other pieces were brought back. So yes, all their major positions of need were addressed. For their secondary needs, I listed quarterback, running back, receiver, and linebacker. And with quarterback, obviously trading up to get Trey Lance. Running back with Trey Sermon. Receiver, they didn't make a whole lot of moves there. They did add Mohamed Sanu, but he doesn't really move the needle all that much. And they didn't add one in the draft, so I'd say not really addressed. And then linebacker, they did add James Burgess, but that doesn't really move the needle a whole lot either, so yeah. But overall, I'm going to give the Niners a B+ of an offseason. And again, I do think they'll be contenders in a weaker NFC, albeit the best division in the conference, so it will be a tight race there. And yeah, so we'll see how they do and how Jimmy Garoppolo plays in response to Trey Lance being drafted. I don't believe he'll quite have an MVP season that Rodgers had after they drafted Jordan Love, but Garoppolo could have a really good year, and obviously that would be good news for the Niners because that would increase the return they'd get for trading Garoppolo in the next offseason because he'll be in a contract year, which is likely when Trey Lance will be instituted as the full-time starter. So the projected starters for the 49ers entering training camp, it's going to be Garoppolo at quarterback, Raheem Mostert at running back, Williams at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson at left guard, Mack at center. Brunskill and Banks will compete for the starting right guard spot. Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. Defensive line will be Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, DJ Jones, and Nick Bosa. Linebacker will be Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, obviously, and then Azeez Al-Shahir, very likely, is the number 3. Cornerback will be Verrett, Mosley, and Williams. And then safety, Jimmy Ward. And then the second safety spot, I could see the 3 veterans, Tart, who was the starter last year, and Jefferson and Wilson competing for that. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next off-season recap video.